So I was sick for the past 2 weeks. I had a sore throat and I was coughing all over the place, so you can imagine making a video was nearly impossible during that time, which really was a damn shame because there was a lot of videos I just wanted to release last week, but 2016's Grim Reaper was trying me. Now that I'm back, a lot of interesting news and topics have popped up, and hopefully I'll be able to catch up and talk about all of it. And speaking of current events, if you haven't been living under a rock, we got news this week that one of Platinum Games' upcoming titles, Scalebound, was cancelled. Although Scalebound was not very high on the list of games that many people were hyped for, Platinum Games does have many fans who respect the solid titles produced by this studio. Metal Gear Rising is actually one of my personal favorites. And their upcoming Nier Automata game is a game that I am highly anticipating. And the funny thing is that after releasing some mediocre licensed games in the past year, who would have thought that Platinum's current reputation is now in the hands of, well, this man. The cancellation of Scalebound is surprising for a couple of reasons. For one reason, we've been already shown a lot of gameplay that looked pretty much close to a finished product. That's not a hard illusion to create, you can just ask anyone who's been burned on Kickstarter, but I don't doubt that after 3 years in development, lots of hard work has already been put into this game. It's also surprising because the idea just seemed like a very solid one. In Scalebound, you were supposed to play as a young man that comes from our world and is thrust into a fantasy world of dragons. The main gimmick of Scalebound is that your character is bound to a dragon. He's scalebound, get it? So if you die, the dragon dies, and vice versa. The premise of Scalebound and what we got to see of the graphics and gameplay were all shaping up to be a very notable title for the Xbox One, and it was also coming out on Windows 10. Platinum Games also has an incredibly good reputation when it comes to the sheer technical quality of their games. They make some of the best action combat titles, and occasionally they have released titles that launch cult fandoms, such as the Drakengard games and especially the cult classic Nier. Canceling a game seemingly out of the blue is therefore quite out of character and surprising for the company, something that just fuels fan consternation even more. The thing is, it's very unlikely that this came out of nowhere. It's just that we, as the fans and consumers, simply don't have any insight when it comes to the day-to-day politics and problems a game developer goes through. There are many reasons to cancel a game, even one that's well anticipated and substantially developed already. It's very unlikely that we'll ever know the entire reason Scalebound was canceled, or whether its reasons offered by Microsoft or Platinum are true, but this is a good time to talk about some of the reasons that can bring a project like this to a halt. The absolute most common reason a game development project fails is it's crushed under its own weight. Modern game development of AAA titles involves hundreds of people, millions of hours of work, and much money as a typical Hollywood blockbuster. This means it takes an extraordinary amount of planning and management to finally let you shoot at people online and say nasty things about their moms.
English, man.
KD matters, win-loss does not matter. Unless you're playing wagers or some shit. Get off my knees.
Yeah, get on your knees. Everything's better.
The fact is that the bigger and more complex something is, the more likely that something will go wrong. It's honestly amazing that so many big game developer projects make it all the way, and it's a true testament to how mature the art of game development has become, how good the workflows and tools are, and how well the market is now understood. We tend to pay more attention to the failures more than the successes, but the truth is that this is a golden age of solid game development. A very sharp contrast to the situation before the great North American video game crash in the 80s. Ambition is another development killer. Issues like scope creep or planning fallacy can eventually make a project impossible to complete. Scope creep happens when things are getting added to the core concept. It's like a stew where you keep adding things that you think will make it taste better. You don't make a good stew by just putting everything into it. That's just how you make a mess. The planning fallacy is the tendency to underestimate how much time, money, and work something will take to accomplish. Maybe Scalebound was just too much for the money and time available. Now, I've already done a video about this recently, but conflict between the publisher who is paying for the development and the vision of the developer can lead to irreconcilable differences. In this case, we had a Japanese developer and a Western publisher, which means there could have been some culture mishaps on top of the normal tensions. Platinum in particular is known for their uncompromising standards when it comes to how a game feels to play. The sort of things they are about, like frame rate, endears them to fans, but often means cutting out features that are more marketable, something a publisher might not like. Like, I don't know, let's say co-op? A lot of people instinctively feel that if you already put so much time and money into something, you might as well finish it. This is something psychologists call the sunk cost fallacy. Basically, the more that you invest in something, the harder it is to abandon it. The problem is that if you can't recover what you've invested, then you shouldn't factor what you've already spent in your decision. Regardless of whether they decide to cancel it or not, the time, money, and thought that went into the game so far is lost either way. The rational way of looking at it is whether any additional effort will be worth it. If it looked like it would take too much going ahead to get the game into shape, it's unfortunately just better to bail. We enjoy things we have time to anticipate much more than things we get immediately. When we think about and look forward to something for a while, it intensifies our pleasure at finally getting what we've been waiting for. It's important to give people something to anticipate at the right time. Announce something too early and people may lose interest before you can deliver. Announce it too close to launch and there's no time to build up the hype. Most importantly, in this case, it's possible to get people excited about a project before you really even know if it will work out. There are a lot of games that start and end development without us ever really knowing anything about them. It's just sad that Scalebound might have been a different story if things had just happened a little differently.